Newlyweds Celestial and Roy are the embodiment of both the American dream and the New South. He is a young business executive and she is an artist on the brink of an exciting career. But as they settle into the routine of their life together, they are suddenly ripped apart by circumstances neither could have imagined. When, while visiting Roy's parents in their small Louisiana town, Roy is arrested and sentenced to 12 years in prison for a crime Celestial knows he didn't commit. It's my review of An American Marriage. Okay, American Marriage. All right, this book I have been putting off pretty much since it came out because when it came out, it was literally everywhere. And that always makes me feel a little uncomfortable when I'm reading because I feel like I'm going to be influenced by everything I'm hearing around me. So I just waited for that all to die down. So I decided to bring it on holiday with me, and I managed to read it in 3 sittings. So I read it over 2 sittings on holiday, and then I read the last, I would say 35-40 pages I read just a few days ago, like 4 or 5 days ago. So I've had time to think about this book and, come up with some thoughts on what I think about it. Now, I think the book is pretty good. It's well done. And it's the kind of book that when you start reading, you cannot put it down. The story is structured in a way to give you all of the information about the characters, but especially the main characters. It helps develop them a little bit better. Now, the main characters are Celestial and Roy, who are married approximately 18 months before he is sentenced to 12 years in prison. And then you have a third main character, which is Andre. And Andre is sort of like it's the part of this love triangle aspect of the story. So the book is told in multiple points of view, which I always like that if it's done really well. And I think Tayari Jones does it pretty well here. You definitely hear that voice of Roy, and you definitely hear that voice of Celestial, and you definitely hear a different voice for Andre. Be that as it may, the points of view or the opinions that we hear are mostly from men, Black men. And I think that is a very interesting aspect of the book as well. That didn't bother me so much, but I thought that was an interesting way of going about it. Now, does Tayari Jones get into the mass incarceration of Black men in America in depth? No. Is this a problem? No. It's not a problem because that's not what she's trying to do in the book. As you can see, the title is called An American Marriage. What she's trying to do is she's trying to ask the question, how does or can a marriage last through incarceration? That's basically what the book's about. And she does it very well in the sense where not only do we get these points of view of the broken marriage of Celestial and Roy, but we get 3 other examples of marriage in the book. So we get marriage from the point of view of Celestial's parents, which are Gloria and Franklin. Franklin, the weed-smoking, intelligent man, Franklin. And we get the second set of parents are Roy's parents, which we have Big Roy and Olive. And now that is an interesting couple because they seem very solidified and very supportive of one another and have made a family where most people would find it difficult to love someone else's child as if it's your own. And that's pretty much what Big Roy does with Roy Jr. And I gotta say, Big Roy is the best Black man in this book, okay? If you read the book, you know what I mean. Big Roy is everything. Then you have the third marriage, which was a total fail, which was Andre's parents. So we have Evie and Carlos. Well, they're not married anymore. And Carlos has gone off and married another woman and had 2 other kids. So you get these 3 different types of marriages and how these people get together to get married. All of this plays a part in Tari Jones's, in her search for, this idea of, can, marriage last? What can it last through? Basically, not just incarceration, but how many things can, different things can marriages last through, and if it's really possible. So that is pretty much that part. The structure goes with us learning, like I said at the beginning, with Celestial and Roy getting married, and then, their first pretty much 18 months of marriage, and then Roy is incarcerated. And there it goes to this epistolary format. And the epistolary format is just, I just love epistolary formats. I wish more books had it, because it gives you the depth of the character. And that's what Tari Jones does very well here. And through the letters is where we really see who Celestial and Roy really are. And that's when you, from the beginning of the marriage and through the letters that they exchange, is when you realize these 2 people should have never gotten together. No, they should have never gotten together. And, I know there was, at one point, there was something going around, are you team Celestial or team Roy? I'm neither. These 2, yeah, they should have stayed away from each other. After we go through the letters, the epistolary form, which is really, really great, then we go back to the multiple points of view from Roy, from Celestial, and from Andre. And that is done really well too, because the voices are distinctly different. Sadly, I would have liked to hear more from Celestial, especially in certain crucial aspects of the story itself. I wanted to hear more from her than I actually did. That's why I came away feeling like this is like a real man's point of view more so than a woman's point of view. But be that as it may, it goes really well. But like the other downside is the fact that she could have spoken more about the incarceration, although I know that's not the real point of the whole point of the book. She had done research on mass incarceration of Black men in America. And so she had all the statistics, the information, and all of that. But she was having difficulty writing a story because she had no characters, basically. She then remembered what her writing mentor always told her. I'm quoting from what she said in the video that I watched. Write about people and their problems. Do not write about problems and their people. And I thought that was interesting, because that's pretty much what she does here. She's focusing mostly on the people and how this incarceration of Roy affects them. Okay, so I'm going to let her off the hook for not going more in detail about the incarceration stuff. Now, you do get information through the letters when Roy and Celestial are writing each other about Roy's days in prison, like what he does and the things he happens to him and things like that. So she didn't completely, do nothing or write nothing about it. Another thing is how she came up with the ideas, because she was trying to figure out, who am I going to write about? Who are these people? She was in the mall in Atlanta, and she was in the food court, and she overheard a couple talking, a very well-dressed Black woman speaking to a kind of shabbily dressed Black man. And the Black woman said, Roy, you wouldn't have waited on me for 7 years. And Roy, because that was really his name, said, "What are you talking about? This wouldn't have happened to you in the first place." All right, so when you hear that, and those two lines are in the book, that sparked something in her and started to get her to see characters to actually tell the story. So with all of that said, definitely pick it up if you haven't picked it up yet. It's a very fast read. I was completely sucked in right from the beginning. Is it a perfect book? No. How much should I give it? I gave it 4 stars. Yes, I definitely urge you to read it. And Terry Jones has really stepped up her writing, I think, because the last book I read was from her was Silver Sparrow, and I read that years ago. And it was similar in the sense where it had multiple points of view, but from 2 different people. And in that particular book, only one point of view was really good and the other one wasn't so good, and the ending was terrible. This book, she held steadfast all the way to the end and didn't, go off and write some ending that didn't make sense. She held steadfast and wrote an ending that was correct for the book. Thank you, Jesus. Because I cannot bear it when those endings are just so what? Anyway, so I'm going to leave you with that. If you have read this book and you want to talk about it below, drop me a line. Let's have a chat.